All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about what Mikey Garcia has to say about the Errol Spence Jr. fight with Yordenis Ugas. And not surprisingly, I don't think he's giving Errol Spence Jr. a lot of credit, or maybe he's just being realistic. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division and the big fight, the only big fight that we know for sure is going to happen in 2022, and that is Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas for a combination of 3 belts. Mikey Garcia, who was a former title challenger to Errol Spence Jr., has something to say about it, and we're going to talk about that in the video and give you my thoughts on that. But before I do, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, share the video, like the channel, all that good stuff. It really does help the channel grow, and your support will be greatly appreciated. Mikey Garcia is I think is one of the best fighters to come around in the last several years, but not in the welterweight division, obviously, because he lost to Errol Spence Jr. But in the welterweight division, in the lightweight division and the 140-pound division, he just happened to make a big mistake and felt like he saw something in Errol Spence Jr., so he moved up to fight Errol Spence Jr. and he lost. But because he did that, he now has fought both Errol Spence Jr. and Yordenis Ugas. And he was asked what he thought about the fight, and he said that he believed that the Yordenis Ugas fight was going to be a very difficult fight for Errol Spence Jr. Because he said that Yordenis Ugas is a very solid fighter, that he has a lot of attributes that are going to cause Errol Spence Jr. problems. He pointed out that he had fought Yordenis Ugas on multiple occasions in the amateurs. They said he fought him, win at a time and beat Yordenis Ugas at a time that Yordenis Ugas was a world champion in the amateurs. But he believed that, ultimately that Errol Spence should be able to, pull out a decision win over Ugas. But, pretty much said, man, look, thought that the fight could potentially go either way. So, my first reaction is, and I've talked with some other people about it, and their reaction is, there he goes, Mikey Garcia hating on Errol Spence Jr. because Mikey Garcia lost to Errol Spence Jr. and he lost to him in a fashion that Mikey Garcia did not expect to lose, which was that he just got outboxed the entire fight. He got outboxed in that fight so bad that Errol Spence Jr. won. I think Errol Spence Jr. won every round on every card. And on one card, he actually got a 10-8 round, even though Mikey Garcia didn't get knocked down. And that was probably, the first example of Errol Spence Jr. showing what a really good boxer he was, showing his amateur pedigree, showing the fact, that that's a reason why he was an Olympian against Mikey Garcia. But I don't know, man. It just doesn't really sound like Mikey Garcia is giving the man the full credit for being the fighter that he is. I think Mikey Garcia, after the fight with Errol, Mikey said that he felt that he may have gone up in weight too quickly, that he didn't adjust, that he hadn't adjusted to the weight, right? And he felt kind of sluggish and all that against Errol Spence, right? And that could have been the reason for the loss. Personally, I just think that Mikey Garcia underestimates Errol Spence Jr. as a boxer. And I think that a lot of people underestimate Errol Spence Jr.'s skill as, boxing skill, because when he was coming up, it was man down. He was knocking people out, right? Attacking them with these body shots, breaking them down. And ever since he moved up, a level of competition in the welterweight division, he hasn't been getting the knockouts that he got while he was a contender, right? Now, that is not to completely, disagree with Mikey Garcia and what he has to say about the Yordenis Ugas fight. For me, And the key thing about, Yordenis Ugas is that Yordenis Ugas is a come forward fighter. He's somebody that does like to exchange punches. He's a very, very good counter puncher, and he's somebody that is a very good fighter against southpaws. There's actually, if you go to Twitter, I wish you could you can't Google Twitter, but if you Google, Terrence Crawford Errol Spence, Yordenis Ugas and southpaws, you'll see that, there's videos out there where people talk about and analyze how good Yordenis Ugas is with southpaws, right? And that is obviously has a lot to do with the fact that he's, has a Cuban pedigree and all of that. So I definitely think that there are things that he needs to worry about. Jaron Ennis's father, Boots Ennis, also was asked about it, and he gave a comment and said, that there are some things that, Ugas, some ways that he thought that Ugas may be able to give Crawford some problems. Specifically said, the way that he throws his right hand is kind of awkward. And I think what he's talking about is like the way that he, specifically against Manny Pacquiao, he came with a straight right hand. He came with a looping right hand that would kind of catch Manny Pacquiao behind, a little bit behind the glove because when he was in that high guard, and could kind of punch around that and catch him a little bit to the back of the head. Well, to the side of the head and near the ear. So, maybe that's what he's talking about with kind of the awkward, that awkward right hand. And the fact that, he'll also, if you overprotect for that, will straighten it out and can land something right down the middle with it. That may also have something to do, with why Boozy Ennis said that. But, I do agree that this is a good fight for Errol Spence Jr. The only question really for me with Errol is, what is the ring rust going to do? It seems like, though, that he's been staying in very good shape. He's been very active, and, he doesn't reinvent himself every fight, man. He's a guy that is, that is very fundamentally sound and should be able to execute. And he executed his game plan very well with Danny Garcia coming off of a layoff. He also had, has had layoffs before when he was getting quote unquote ducked, where he still was able to get in the ring and execute his game plan efficiently. The question for Errol Spence Jr. when he's out of the ring for long periods of time for me was whether or not, he was going to stay disciplined in between fights, whether he was going to stay on weight, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to stay active and continue, to really stay sharp in, as far as his training and all that goes. But in this particular instance, it looks like he is, man. So I don't really have a lot of worries for it other than to say, that Yordenis Ugas is a world-class fighter and can definitely cause any fighter troubles, whether it's Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, Sean Porter. I've read some articles where people talked about how, specifically in the article that I read that quoted Mikey Garcia, the point of that particular writer was like, pointing to the fact that Yordenis Ugas had beaten Sean Porter better than Errol Spence Jr. beating him. I guess it's because, he wants to give, Yordenis Ugas credit for winning a fight that he didn't win. Because, a lot of people thought, Ugas may have pulled that fight out. But that fight was definitely closer to me than the Errol Spence Sean Porter fight. But anyway, you really can't do all those triangle theories in boxing. But it's just interesting to hear, man, that there are a lot of people, legitimate fighters out there that say, that Yordenis Ugas is couldn't be a real challenge to Errol Spence Jr. And I'm looking forward to the fight, man. But I wouldn't chalk it up to completely hate on Mikey Garcia, but I would say that you're going to be hard pressed to see Mikey Garcia be overly complimentary of Errol Spence Jr. At least that's my take on the matter. But anyway, that's what I think. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.